is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome to That Football Show, presented by our friends at Holiday Distillery and Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon. I'm Tucker Franklin, joined as always by Matt Verderame. Matt, how you doing?
Well, I'm well. How are you?
Look, I'm good. Minicamp underway. The time of recording this podcast, final day of minicamp happening for a lot of teams around the league, not just the Chiefs. But this is like the last hurrah before they break for summer. Chiefs will have a ring ceremony later today as well on Thursday, if you are listening to this on Thursday. Or they might already have their rings by the time you're listening to this. Who knows? That's the magic of podcast. But things are starting to get even slower than they already are, Matt, as teams are getting ready to break for summer break.
Yes. And once they do, there is nothing that's going to happen that's good anyway.
Right.
Okay. I know that talking to people in the league, front office guys specifically, this is the time they're most nervous about.
For sure.
Just that 6-week gap where guys are just kind of like, this is it before we get into football. So hopefully there's not a lot of news. It's a good thing. Although there might be some extension news. That could happen. This is also extension season. So you could see maybe Nick Bolden get a deal, or Humphrey or Trey Smith. This would be that time. Because once you get into camp, it's not impossible, but it's less likely that it happens before the season starts.
So we're going to spend the majority of time on this podcast talking mini camps from the Chiefs and around the league because, look, there's some crazy stuff going on around the league in terms specifically in New York that's going on with teams. But look, we got pressers. We're getting pressers every day of these mini camps. Thank goodness we got some stuff to talk about from these mini camp days. Travis Kelce took to the podium. Chris Jones took to the podium. We'll hear from Coach Reed and Patrick Mahomes later at the time of recording this podcast. They haven't taken to the podium yet. But thoughts on Travis Kelce's presser? I mean, it seemed like a very Travis Kelce-esque presser. Went a bit longer than everybody else, but he doesn't sound like he's done quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, when he signed his reworked contract, like, okay, he's going to play 2 more years and he's going to retire. And I still think that's what's going to happen. But, this is the time of year when everybody's feeling good. Everybody's not banged up and beat up and bruised and broken. And, he talked like he was ready to play at least 50. Listen, I think if you want to get anything out of it that has some substance to it, it's probably that they're pretty geared up for the season. I mean, I think, this is a year where they might be the first team in Super Bowl, in the Super Bowl era that's won a Super Bowl, and they almost don't feel good about it because they stunk so much of last year by their standards.
Right.
And I think for them, it's a combination of having something to prove a little bit, at least to themselves, not to anybody else, to themselves. And then also you're going for history. And I think that motivates, the great players, and Kelce certainly among them.
You're right about the reworked contract. That contract confused a lot of people for about an hour and a half, 2 hours after it came out. People were confused by it. People thought he was going to have 2 more years on top of his already existing 2 years, so he's going to play for 4 more years. But look, Joshua Briscoe said this on Only Weird Games. I would love it if Travis Kelce, if I didn't have to watch the wheels fall off of Travis Kelce, truthfully. Like, I would love it if I didn't have to watch a rapid decline. I didn't want Antonio Gates to happen, right? Like, I want him to play all those years, but I don't want to see it unceremoniously end. Look, and if they get a three-peat this year, man, I don't know if there's going to be any better of a time to call it quits than after a three-peat doing something what everyone's done. But he does still have 2 years left on the contract. It did seem like he was fully planning on playing those out. But, like, man, if you're getting calls from Hollywood, if your girlfriend is Taylor Swift, you don't have to play football. He's going to be, think about this, it's going to be like November, late November, and he's going to be gearing up to play probably a pretty cold game in the middle of Arrowhead, and he's going to be like, man, I could not be doing this right now. I could be sitting at home, probably making as much, maybe even more money, doing endorsement deals and just hanging out with my superstar girlfriend. Like, that's probably going to sink in a little bit. He still said he loves the game, obviously. Maybe that's the difference between Travis Kelce and I, is that he loves the game probably a little bit more than me. But that's the only difference. But I mean, there's got to be some point where he's just like sitting there being like, man, I don't know. I don't know if I can do another year of this.
I think with Travis Kelce, and I don't pretend to know him really well. I've spoken to him a handful of times, and he's been gracious enough to come to the pod a few times. Like he really just like genuinely loves football, and I know that sounds cliche. And if you're a fan, you're probably thinking like, well, yeah, of course he does. Well, there are a lot of guys playing in the NFL who don't love football. Like
Right.
a lot of guys. There are a lot of guys who love the paycheck and love the lifestyle, and they happen to be super talented. They worked hard enough that they were able to get to that level. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's like a free ride there, but they love what comes with it. Right. Travis Kelce loves football. And, I'm kind of one of these people. I think he's going to be one of these dudes who they're going to pretty much have to make Travis Kelce. Like, I just don't think that I know. And look, it makes all the sense in the world. Like, yeah, he's dating Taylor Swift. I'm like, well, who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Like, what if they get married? They want him a family. I have no idea if they want a family, but if they do, like, if that's what's in the cards for them, that's great. But I feel like he's going to look at it like, once I'm done, I'm done. And I can always go into media. And if things work out with Taylor, God willing, I got 50 years ahead of me. Like, hey, look.
Yeah.
Once I'm done, I'm done. I had an athlete a long time ago tell me that athletes are the only people who die twice. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. Like, a lot of guys, when they leave the NFL or the NBA, like a lot of them, they really struggle.
Yeah.
A lot of them, their marriages end. Like it's really like they passed away because they are so used to the regiment of it. It's not even so much the game. It's just like, I do this on this day and I do this on this. And your life has been defined by that for decades.
Yeah.
And you've done nothing but work your ass off nonstop to get to that point. And then one day you wake up and there's nothing to do. Like, there's nowhere to go. I think at first that's awesome. But then it's like, well, now what? Now what? Now guys are going back to camp. Like, I guarantee you. Now, look, I'm not saying he's going to retire or anything. Jason Kelce, when mid-August rolls around, he's probably going to be, thank God I'm not there. But like then September is going to roll around. He's going to be, man, like I miss run out of the tunnel. Like, and that's, everybody's different. Some guys adjust to it really well. But I think with Travis, look, I definitely think he plays at least 2 more years. And I think there's a world where after that, it's just like a series of 1 year. It's kind of like his brother, honestly. That's what happened to Phil.
Right.
I mean, Jason played 1 year contracts out. I don't think he's going to play till he's 40. But, I think, his best friend is Mahomes. Like, I think he's going to have a tough time walking away. They need Chris Jones, who in his presser, if I could pull this up, says, quote, he's got like 4 or 5 more years. And what is he talking about, right? Jones said via ESPN, we can't let TK go. It's like, we retire, we've got to retire together. Give me at least 4 years. Then we'll talk about it. Now, I don't think you're getting 6 more years.
No.
But, look, would I bet on 4? No. Would I be completely shocked if Kelce's dragging himself out there until he's like 37 years old? No. I mean, I think people always look at it like, oh, it's got to end on this storybook note. Most careers don't end on a storybook note.
Right.
They just don't. Like most guys look at it like, I'm going to retire and I'm ready to retire. I'm not going to retire because I won. I mean, he could have retired after this year if that was the case.
For sure.
So I think he keeps going. But to your point, hey, man, listen, the way this team's been, maybe they repeat. He gets on one knee at the 50 and, they ride off into the sunset. Who knows? It's all possible.
It's one of those situations I think is really interesting. You brought up what I don't think the transition from like football player to just civilian, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
That transition is a really hard one because they're trying to go back into like the workforce, right? Like you got to do a job and like they don't have the experience that a lot of, let's say 27, 30-year-olds do, right? Like they don't have a lot of that work experience. Morton Anderson talked about it on Beyond the Game. We had him on last year. One of the podcasts here at KCSN. I think Danon Hughes is actually going to be on the Beyond the Game podcast this week, so make sure to check that out Monday morning on KC Sports Network. You can catch that here. But he talked about how he would wake up, like his body would wake up on Sundays feeling like he would have somewhere to be. Like he was like, oh no, I'm late to the stadium. And his wife would be like, no, you don't do this anymore. Like and look, Morton Anderson played a long time in the NFL. Like he played a very long, he had a very prosperous career. One of the best kicker careers of all time, and he was still feeling that feeling of like, I didn't do it. Like I still have somewhere to be. He wasn't happy with his retirement, right? At the forefront of it. So it's one of those things. It's very tough. It's very hard to do. Luckily, he does have Jason, who is doing it, who's going through it right now, and he can kind of see firsthand through it, which kind of has been their whole career of Jason doing everything first for him. And they're doing so many business ventures together. They've got good things going. I don't think that there's anything bad going on there, but I do think that they'll get 2 more years. But like, look, and I think that is probably what makes me and Travis Kelce different. That's probably the only thing, is that like I would be like, wow, I want to hang out with my superstar girlfriend, not get my ass beat constantly in the middle of November when I got to travel to Carolina to play a garbage Panthers team. I'm like, I don't really want to do this. That's probably the only thing that makes Travis Kelce and I different.
Yeah, no, I don't want to speculate on any other things.
Right.
That make you guys different. I mean, obviously, I think you hit the gym more than him. You got that weightlifting going. You know, I appreciate that both Travis and Patrick, in an age where everybody's like, you know, Tom Brady and avocado ice cream. Like, you look at these OTA photos and these minicamp photos, and they're just dudes.
They seem old school, truthfully. There's like,
that's what I mean. Yeah, like neither. And look, I'm not, like, for the record, before anybody in the comments is like, you're just fat shaming. No, neither one of these guys are fat. Okay, like,
right.
What I'm saying is, you know, a lot of these dudes, it's like their bodies are fine tuned to the point that 4% body fat. And it's like, and like Mahomes is chilling courtside at a Mavs game. You know, God knows, having like a Coors Light at Billy. That's who he sponsors, right? Is it like, and it, you know, Kelsey's just, you know, a little dad bodding it, whatever. Like, and it's funny. Like, you look at these guys, and like you always see like opposing fans, like they'll put on Twitter, like, in responses to these photos, dude's out of shape. It's so and so's time to shine, whatever team they root for. And then Kelsey goes out there, just dad bods his way like 150 yards on 10 catches.
Yeah.
I mean, but it is old school. Like, you look at some of these guys, like Marshall Faulk had the most dad bod. So did Peyton Manning, by the way. Like no muscle definition whatsoever. Went out and just killed people week after week. Like, it's just funny to me, you know. And then you'll see like these aggregator accounts on Twitter who are just the worst. Yeah. Who, you know, like whoever it is, you know, Curtis Samuel makes a catch, and it's just some basic run of the mill, like, you know, 7-round guy catching against the air, and they're like, big Curtis Samuel season loading. And you're like, okay, I don't know if that's true. Meanwhile, Travis Kelce's over there, just, you know, he's sponsoring Garage Beer, and just, yeah, call me in September. You gotta love it.
It is quite funny. And I think what was really interesting, I think Drew Tranquil talked about this at his presser, where like he was covering Travis Kelce and was like, he complimented Drew. Like, Travis complimented Drew on like a route that he covered. He's like, man, that's really good coverage right there. Like, what'd you see? And he was like asking him questions about that. So like the dude loves football, genuinely. Because he talks about how he feels like he's still a kid out there, and he still keeps the energy every time when he goes out there. Yeah. In June. Like, we're talking June, and it's like in Kansas City, it's not cool. Like, the weather's not cool. We're having a pretty warm June so far. And it's muggy. It's muggy as all get out. So like, he's out here during his presser, he kept like wiping his face because they just got done with practice. He kept sweating. And he was also wearing an awesome shirt that just said Bodacious on it. Like, I was like, man, where can I get that shirt? That's probably a Travis Kelce exclusive. I don't know if they sell those suckers, but I'm sure the Twitter bots in my mentions will let me know where I can get a link to that shirt.
I have wanted for the longest, and I probably, like, maybe this is making a retirement thing for him, but I love playing pickleball, and he has 6 pickleball courts at his house. And I have been trying to convince like Sports Illustrated and also Kelsey's representatives, like, listen, I want to play against him in pickleball and see what happens. Yeah. Like, let's do this. I think the Chiefs might have a problem with that. Go ahead and I should rephrase. I want to try to convince them. I've mentioned this to SI. Like, this would be fun to do. I have not reached out to Kelsey's reps. I at some point I will, but probably again, like in the off season. I don't think they're going to be like, get ready for a training camp. Go out and do that. But I don't like just play. Obviously, look, he has the athleticism on me, so I'm gonna have to win with guile. I think it would be. I just love to play any sport against Travis Kelce, and that's probably about the only one I have any realistic hope of at least like not getting completely murdered and or put in the hospital in. But yeah, it's interesting with the Chiefs as a whole, right? Like everybody's there. That should be there. I know like Tooney's not practicing, obviously he's hurt.
Right.
Butker's an illness. But they're there. This is a team that has won the last 2 Super Bowls, has gone to 4 of the last 5 and won 3 of them. Like, if there's any guys in the league who could just be like, listen, I'm thinking a little bit of a break, like, it's them. They play the longest seasons of any team. You know that they're going to have a tough camp, which a lot of teams don't have. Like, it's going to be physical. It's going to be demanding. And yet they're all there. Everybody seems to have a really good attitude about it. And then there's the Jets, right? Like, who I bring up because they are the perfect example of why some of these teams, no pun intended, never get themselves off the ground. Like, they are the perfect example of a team that you look at and you're like, yeah, they got all the talent on the roster. Sauce Gardner and obviously, Garrett Wilson. And they brought in Mike Williams and Tyron Smith, and of course Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and like on and on and on and on. And they're talented. Like they're a team that on paper, if they stay healthy, which is granted a massive if, and of course I should mention Hassan Reddick, who is also not bothered to show up to anything because he wants a contract, fair enough. Quentin Williams, like another great player. Like, that's a team that on paper you look at and you're like, damn, that's a team that can win 12-plus games. That's a team that could be, not only just in the playoffs, but a factor in them. And then you look at the Jets. You're like, you know what? I'm good. Like, I don't even know what the over-under is on the Jets. I'm taking the under. I don't know. I honestly, God, I don't know what the number is. It's probably like 10 or something. It's under. They are just... Can you imagine, like, you go to camp, okay? You're a mini camp. You're Tyron Smith. You are 33 years old. You haven't played more than 13 games in a season since 2015, okay? You are always physically hurt. Morgan Moses shows up. He's a new right tackle. He's 33 years old. He's been in the trenches for a decade, getting his body beat to hell. You're Mike Williams. You're hurt all the damn time. Like, everybody's reporting. And you show up and you're like, where's Aaron? Where's the quarterback? The guy who makes more than anyone else on this team. The guy who spent January being like, listen, we got to cut out the distractions, cut out the non-football BS. The guy who had a brief thought to run for vice president. Like, where's our quarterback? And it's like, listen, guys, he's not going to make it. He apparently is on a trip to nobody knows where. Doesn't matter where. It's not excused. He's subject to fines. But Aaron's not going to not just miss one day. He's going to miss the whole damn thing. And the spin that's come out about this, which I'll shut up, but like the spin is hilarious. I'll get to that in a second. But the spin is just unbelievable.
I think it's almost perfect. Everything that's going on with Aaron Rodgers, it's like you sign Aaron Rodgers, you kind of sign up for the shit show, for lack of a better term, right? The Jets had to know they were going into this. But before we fully dive in, I think we should take a break first. Let's take a break. We'll regroup, and then we'll fully dive in on the New York Jets and the catastrophe going on there.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Matt, you had mentioned Aaron Rodgers' aspirations to be a vice president for a third-party candidate. He's not. He was not named the vice president for this. He unfortunately, one of my favorite things that came out when Robert Saleh stepped to the podium and said, like, yep, he's not here. Unexcused absence. I saw a quote tweet from somebody. I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head, but they had tweeted out a screenshot of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his campaign schedule. And I just went to the website just to confirm that it was real, not photoshopped, right? Because people do that for jokes. Very real. There was a campaign event on June the 13th, today, where Robert F. Kennedy will be in Glendale, California.
Bro, my pants if he shows up.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Oh my God, man. I would pay. I'd pay good money. Like,
I wouldn't put it past him, though, is the thing. It's like,
oh, God, no.
This seems like very up his alley right here. Now, he didn't get chosen as a vice president. Maybe he is a little bit upset about that, right? Maybe he passed up on it. Maybe that happened. But a private reception with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in Glendale, California is happening on June the 13th. I believe there was actually something that had happened on the 12th as well, and even the 11th in California.
I don't know where he is, and I don't care. It doesn't matter. What absolutely slays me to no end is how unbelievably disingenuous the guy is. Like, look, I don't care. And for everybody who's watching this, who's already like just seething because like they back Aaron Rodgers because of what he believes off the field. I'm here to tell you right now, I don't give a shit about what he believes off the field. I don't care. Sure. Okay, this is a football conversation. Okay? I don't care about the rest of it. It absolutely cracks me up to no end. He will sit there and be like, listen, I'm coming back in late November for my torn Achilles. Okay, man, go with God. You can do it. God bless you. Have fun. Can't make it back. Okay, fine. December. Well, I would make it back, but we're not good enough to compete for a playoff spot. Okay, fine. So then it's like, all right, listen, you blew your Achilles out. There's nothing you can do about that. It's unfortunate. It happens. But, like, you would think any serious football player, like at that position especially, where you are leading a team, where if you don't show up to minicamp, the whole offense is screwed because you get nothing out of it. You would think you just got paid a fortune by this team. You lasted 4 plays, not your fault, blow your Achilles. Okay, fine. I'm going to rehab my ass off, which I'm sure he did. But then it's going to be, hey, look, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to show you what you're getting. I'm going to show you the player I am. I'm going to show my teammates the player I am. We got a bunch of new offensive linemen. We got a new receiver. Sorry, guys, I'm out. And for all the people who have already commented on Twitter about this repeatedly, including some Jets beat reporters, who are like, well, he showed up to all the OTAs. Great. That's his job. Like, I hope he showed up. Nobody's giving Patrick Mahomes credit because he showed up to OTA. Like, great. Congratulations. It's voluntary. No, it's not. Like, right. In reality, like, it's if you're the quarterback, it's not really. And yes, there have been guys, even Brady a couple of years, that didn't show up. Like, yes, there are the occasional guys who don't show up. Lamar Jackson didn't bother to show up for some OTAs. Fine. Most guys show up.
Right.
Mini camp, there's a word that comes before that. It's mandatory. And the spin out of New York with some of these reporters of like, hey, by the way, listen, he planned this trip a long time ago. That's like if I went to my boss at Sports Illustrated and was like, listen, John, I planned the trip for the second weekend in February. I'm just going to be out of town. And he was like, well, Matt, it's the Super Bowl. Like, we're going to kind of need you there, bud. We're going to need you to cover this with the other guys on the team. I was like, I'm not feeling it. I'm thinking Italy that weekend. He's like, well, couldn't you reschedule for any other fucking weekend again? No, I'm thinking right then. I mean, the idea that, like, he can't reschedule his trip or move it around. He's been in the league for 20 damn years. He knew minicamp was coming. It's not like they were like, hey, Aaron, surprise. It blows my mind. And like, if I was a player on the Jets, especially on offense, I would be pissed. I'd be like, why am I here? Right. Why am I here going through 3 days of practice? That means Jack, because Tyrod Taylor's taking the reps. Or no disrespect to Tyrod. If he's taking real reps during the season, you're screwed. Okay? Like, that's reality. Good backup quarterback, but you're not making the playoffs with Tyrod if he's got to play a bunch of games. The fact that he couldn't be bothered to show up to mandatory minicamp, did a trip to bro, there's a word for that. Retirement. Like they just retire. It just cracks me up. And the people that defend this,
Right.
if this was anybody else, you'd be like, what is he doing? Where? But then you get these like weirdo, like, well, it's okay because, it's his decision. No, it's actually like, I mean, technically, yes, it is decision to be a dope and not show up the minicamp. Yes, that technically is his decision. Like, I could make a decision to walk into traffic. It's still a terrible damn decision that, like, most human beings in my position would not make. Like, they wouldn't walk into traffic. Every other starting quarterback is at minicamp right now, except for Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, because Jacksonville basically uses this as a rookie minicamp. Everyone else is there, and you're not. You're not there. Why are you not there? This is why they never win anything. This is why.
Maybe also because they're paying him $17 million this year as a 41-year-old quarterback who is coming off of an Achilles injury might also be a part of it. Next year, he's slated to make $51.5 million.
Good.
Yeah.
Trips, more money for trips.
Right. He can take more trips to California for RFK Jr. Trips.
Dude, if he shows up to a campaign event, that's going to be it. I'm going to have to write a 4,000-word column.
It'll be an all-time Twitter day, honestly.
I mean, if nobody... By the way, if that is... I doubt that's where he is. Right. If that's where he is, and you're the Jets, maybe get out in front of that a little bit. Like, because the last thing you need is the old, do, and then like Aaron Rodgers walks out.
Uh-huh.
But that's not... But yeah, and that's the last thing I'll say on this in terms of just like my thought on it. Like, forget him for just a second. Robert Saleh, it looks like a hostage negotiation every time that poor guy has to go up there, right? Like, You can just see, like how a president ages over the course of like an 8-year term.
Uh-huh.
And, they have the before and after pictures. And like these guys are like young and vivacious going in. By the end of it, they look like they've gone through like 19 years of Vietnam. Uh-huh. Like I feel like Saleh, we're about 2 years away from Saleh being gray and looking like Vic Fangio. Like, just like old, like just always in like a sweatshirt that like doesn't really fit. Like, just haggard and just hunched. Like, no offense to Vic, but man's in his 60s. We're all going to get there. Like, where you just kind of reach your like I don't care anymore phase. Like this is how I'm dressing today. I think that's where we're going with Robert Saleh. We're Saleh. I don't even know. 2 years might be aggressive. There might just be like 2 months where we get to like mid-August and Saleh's. I don't know where he is. Stop asking. I don't know. Might be at a juice bar. Might be in California. Might show up today. Like the man looks like every time he walks out there, he's like, oh God, again, not again. I got to answer questions again. It's brutal. It's brutal.
I feel very bad for Robert Saleh. He deserves better. At least I think he does. I think he deserves better. I did look up the Jets win total. It is 9.5.
Okay.
9. Yeah. So, 9.5 wins for the New York Jets. Look, I think it's good to look around the league as Chiefs fans to realize that you have it a little bit better than you do think. The Chiefs did have a chaotic offseason, right? Every story, every headline that seemed to be off field seemed to be about the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, you had a medical emergency at one of your OTA practices. Like, it's been a very bizarre offseason. But to look around and see like, hey, you know what? It could be worse. Is always refreshing to like talk about teams like the Jets, like the Broncos, Matt, who are just like, you know what? Yes. We have number one, we have an open competition at quarterback between Bo Nix and Zach Wilson, which might be the saddest open quarterback competition of all time. And as you brought to my attention, I didn't know this until you told me. They're just like, nah, we're going to cancel the last day of mandatory minicamp. We don't need that day. We are set and we are good.
I mean, I appreciate that the Broncos are like, listen, we saw this team for 2 days. We're good. We're going home. We're going to enjoy the rest of our summer. And we're going to come back, and we are going to soldier through this like the professionals we are.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for teams to cancel a day of minicamp, get out early. So, like, I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek with Denver here, but also you have a rookie quarterback, and you get a million new pieces, like maybe he needs every rep he can get. But then you look at Bronco practice reports, and Jarrett Stidham's been taking reps with the ones. Pretty sure you and I talked about this about a month ago.
No.
Where we said about mid-August is going to roll around, and you're going to get these reports out of Denver, which would be, hey, listen, there's nothing to worry about. Jarrett Stidham's rolling with the ones. Doesn't matter that Bo Nix is third on the depth chart behind Zach Wilson. It's fine. It's fine. And I'm here to tell you right now, if that happens, it's not fine. It's not fine. Okay? He's not walking in trying to replace a guy who's good. He's walking into a room full of, no disrespect to Jarrett Stidham, a backup, and Zach Wilson, who is not even an NFL quarterback in any capacity. Like, that's the room you're walking into and you're a first round, 12th overall pick. If you can't win that job in a year where there's zero expectations as well, like, it's not like they're trying to win anything. If you can't win that job, it's not good. It's not good. Now, listen, we're going to have to go through the whole song and dance where they're going to be Jarrett Stidham's our starter until proven otherwise. Then we're going to get like 2 weeks into camp, and all of a sudden Bo Nix is going to be running with the ones one day. And then we're going to get to see, see a little preseason football. Also, did notice Sean Payton had cataract surgery, got his eyes cleared up. I don't know that this is the season to have done that for. But I am glad for Sean that his health is, he's in good health and everything else. But I wonder if the cataract surgery, he got them removed and all of a sudden watched 2 days of practice. So I'm good. Let's all just go.
He should have done it before the draft, before they picked Bo Nix. He probably should have got that cataract surgery done. Before he
done.
It's like, wait a second. No, I do think it's a funny point to mention. He's like, you know what? More reps is not going to help us. We just need to get out of here.
We're good. Let's not beat anybody down.
Yeah. But there are worse situations. I did think the quote from Jim Harbaugh talking about Justin Herbert saying he could play tight end and he could play edge rusher was funny. Things seem like they're going as good as they can be with Jim Harbaugh as the head coach in Los Angeles. Also, don't they have Greg Roman as their OC?
Yes, you do.
Chiefs are going to be fine. That's all I'm going to say about that. Anything else around the league you wanna hit on before we head out of here? There's not a ton going on. Like, as I mentioned at the top of the show, teams are in OTAs right now. Like, today is like the last day for. I think this is like the last day for all teams, regardless if they went early. Like, some teams did go early last week and are already out, but like I think this is like the last week of OTAs for a lot of the teams. Today, as we're recording this podcast, is the last day. So I think that we are very, very close to the summer lull for the off season.
We are very close as far as other things around the league. I'm sure there's something, but not that I'm thinking of at the moment. Nothing that is overly pressing that people are going to be sending in emails about if we don't hit. I am very much, but actually, I'll give you one thing we could seriously is what is going on in Cincinnati with Burrow?
Yeah, did you?
That doesn't seem great.
I think look. I've always been tinfoil hat on that injury. Like, why was he showing up to the game with a wrist brace on already? Like, how come that was a thing? How come he wasn't listed on the injury report?
Yeah.
How come he's now questioning his existence now with this wrist injury? Like, it's gotten dark pretty quick with this the Joe Burrow injury.
Really has. And I seriously, look, this is an injury that some people have talked about and said this is a serious injury. Like, It is a real question going forward about the mobility in that wrist, the flexibility in that wrist. And there have been reports that after he throws the ball, not of course every time, but sometimes he's out there flexing his wrist trying to get it right. Now, listen, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an NFL trainer. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to he should be further along. He should be. Maybe he's right where he should be. But he has missed by their own admission, the teams admit he's missed a lot of practices here. And not because he's like not showing up. He's not pulling a Rodgers. He's not over in like Copenhagen. Okay, like he's in Cincinnati, but he's not practicing. And they're not having him throw 2 days in a row. And as we're recording this, he's not practicing again today. And you're just like, he got hurt in November. He got hurt a long time ago. Like you're 7 months ago at this point. Almost exactly 7 months ago. And he can't practice on back-to-back days. He's out there, as you point out, Tucker, talking about his football mortality and thinking of, it's in the back of your mind. That is significant. Like, that is, I mean, think about it. That was Mahomes. Maybe having a heart attack. I mean, that is, you can't throw him back-to-back days, 7 months out from this wrist injury. Like, and this is a guy who, I wouldn't personally call him injury prone, but has had injuries. Like, obviously this wrist injury, had the calf last year, kept him out of all camp.
That's right, yeah.
And even though he played early in the year, he was a shell of himself. Mm-hmm. Could not play. I mean, he really, first month of the year, he couldn't play. He obviously had the torn ACL rookie year. And then there was another injury that he played through a year prior. I can't remember for the life of me what it was, but he was hurt again. I can't remember what it was this time, man. It's a bad job by me. But you look at them and they can't block. He's always getting just the hell beat out of him.
Right.
It's at some point, if you're a Bengals fan, you're a Bengals player, Bengals, whoever, you're associated with the team, you at some point have to be seriously concerned about, like, is he going to be able to perform the way he needs to?
Right.
I mean, that's a real question. She's playing them week 2. Is he going to be there? Like, and if he is there, can he throw? Like, is he all right? And then on top of that, not that this is the same thing, but you have the Bengals with like multiple guys asking to be traded, star players.
Yes.
You have Jamar Chase, who's basically doing the old hold out, hold in, right? Like, that team is a mess right now.
Yeah.
Like, there is no other way to say it. Your quarterback can't throw 2 days in a row, 7 months out of surgery. Your one-star receiver wants out of there because they won't pay him. The other one wants to get paid but has 2 years left on his contract, which kind of does not jive with what Zach typically does. We'll see if they bend. And then Trey Hendrickson's like, you know what, I'd like a trade because I'm sick of not getting paid more guaranteed money. That is... And also, Brian Callahan, their offense coordinator of many years, is now head coach in Tennessee, so he's not. That's a lot. That is a lot of stuff going on as they head into the crux of the summer.
I do think there's a lot of things I was looking up as you were talking. I did look up he had an appendectomy as well.
Okay, yeah.
So that was another surgery that he had. I didn't realize. You mentioned just his injury history. Yeah, he's had a lot of injuries, but it never really stuck out to me, right? It never was like, oh, this dude has had a ton of injuries. It seemed like they might have all just been kind of spaced out. But he also just got paid too, is the other thing with this. With Cincinnati, they just paid him. He's slated to hit $29.7 million this year. Joe Burrow is. Looking at that depth chart. T. Higgins, as you mentioned, hasn't signed the franchise tag yet. They put the franchise tag on him. He's not going to sign it. No. They brought in Orlando Brown, obviously, last year. Trent Brown, I don't know if you saw the video of those two guys warming up. They look, I would say, overweight. They don't typically look like they're playing weight, I will say. That didn't look very encouraging either. And as we know in Kansas City, Orlando Brown's not particularly a star left tackle. There are some,
he's probably an average left tackle.
Right. I think there are certainly some holes in this team, especially you mentioned having a new offensive coordinator. Lou Anarumo is still there on the defensive side of the ball, which is good, that continuity there. He's caused problems for Mahomes, but yeah, it is frightening probably if you're a Bengals fan and you see the word mortality used in a press conference.
Not great.
Yeah. No, I saw the little, because they have those little ESPN headlines on the side there. It said like Joe Burrow questioning mortality after injury. And I was like, excuse me?
I'm like,
excuse me? Does he think he's gonna die? There's that Bengals team is a wreck. A lot of interesting stuff going on. There was another. I mean, we talked about the Chargers a little bit already, but man, I don't know. Do you think Joe Burrow's going to play week 2?
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to be 100%.
The Bengals are notoriously bad early in the season.
They are. They're usually hideous the first month of the year. I just think the Bengals are really going to go one of two ways this year. Like, I think the Bengals are either, look, this is kind of their, like, we're all into the hilt because we know Higgins is gone and all the rest of it. Or this thing completely implodes, where Burrow's not right, Chase is pissed because they haven't paid him. Yeah. And I don't, just based on Jamar Chase's history, I don't think he's going to be shy about that fact.
For sure.
T. Higgins, what if T. Higgins just holds out, doesn't show up the first couple weeks of the year? I mean, we saw Kansas City last year, that can happen. Okay? Like, what if this year it's not Chris Jones, but T. Higgins flanked by his two owners in the box at Arrowhead, or his two agents in week 2 up in Arrowhead? That'd be interesting. A little plot twist. But, like, yeah, I mean, there's a world where Hendrickson's pissed because he didn't get paid, and Higgins is pissed, and Chase is pissed, and Burrow is 60% of himself for a while. And you're looking at them going, they're just not that good. I mean, you know, this is a team that last year, and look, I think Lou Anarumo is an awesome defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
they sucked defensively last year.
Yeah.
In just about any metric you can look up. Like, you want to look up, like, total yards, points, explosive plays, passer rating. I mean, teams lit them up like a Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, their personnel is almost the damn same. I mean, the safeties are swapped out. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. And no offense to Von Bell. I don't think Von Bell coming in is going to all of a sudden change calculus. Like, Geno Stone's a good player. It's fine. They have real questions. And I am one who, I think they're the biggest challenger to the Chiefs in the AFC. I really do. I think if they're right, they're the toughest team. But there's a world here where we're watching them week 2, and, you know, Higgins is holding out, and Burrow's 60%, and you're going, man, this team's a mess. Like, yeah. I mean, that is absolutely on the board based on what we've seen. And to your point also, lastly, their offensive line, like Trent Brown, I don't know. Trent Brown's bounced around a lot in this league.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Orlando Brown against George Karlaftis and company, and, you know, if Amenahu's back by that point, like, there's a lot of questions about Cincinnati right now. And I tend to believe in teams that have shown that they can win. It's shown that they know how to do it. But there are a lot of questions. I mean, to say there's not would just be to lie about it.
I also think when you talk about contenders to the Chiefs, I was scrolling around on NFL.com and looking at the news portion of it, getting ready for the show, and I saw this story about Josh Allen trying to clean up his throwing motion in year 7. It's one of those things where, like, okay, yeah, I mean that'll work, I guess, if you want to do that. But the Bills are in an interesting spot too. They signed MVS and they signed Chase Claypool to try to address their wide receiver needs. I'm not so sure when I just, like, look around the league in terms of just, like, contenders for the Chiefs in terms of the AFC. Obviously, the Texans seem like they're the big one right now. The Texans have had a pretty good offseason, obviously, with everything that they've done. They're just building on what they already have with C.J. Stroud taking advantage of having that rookie contract. But, like, outside of that, I feel, as a Chiefs fan, you feel pretty good about the state of the Chiefs compared to Buffalo and Cincinnati, the teams that you have notoriously gone up against. Baltimore, seems like they're in a pretty good spot. Lamar Jackson has lost a bunch of weight. I don't know how that's going to translate. I know they're saying he's going to be faster. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing that he's lost all that weight. Nevertheless, I think if you're a Chiefs fan and you're looking around the league at, like, the other AFC contenders, you're feeling pretty all right at this point.
Yeah. I mean, look, I made the argument. I'm trying to think where it was. I talk enough now that I've lost myself. Might have been on my pod. I don't think the AFC is as good as it was a year ago. I just don't. Yeah. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's terrible or anything. But I just think, like, last year at this time, we looked at the conference, most people, and went, Jacksonville's a contender, right? Like, they're on the come up. The Jets were this team. You're kind of a wild card because Rodgers is coming in, and you don't know. But, like, obviously, he's a great improvement over what the hell they had. They had this defense. The Bills at that time still a top flight contender.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals are coming off 2 AFC title game appearances in a row.
Yeah.
Baltimore's always in the mix because they're well coached and they got Lamar. And like you looked at that conference, a lot of people, including myself, thought Pittsburgh would be pretty good. And then we watched Kenny Pickett for 2 drives and realized we were wrong.
Yeah.
The Chargers, it was like the typical, like, hey, they could be good. And then the Dolphins, who were another team you looked at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And like this year, I don't feel that way. Like,
No.
To me, look, I'm sorry. And maybe I'll leave my words on this. The Jets, don't waste my time. I'm like, until the Jets bother to show up figuratively and literally, like, don't waste my time.
Right.
The Dolphins, I feel like I've seen this movie enough at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unless the Dolphins are the 1 seed and they're hosting everybody, like, I have no time for the Dolphins. Which, by the way, I got a story coming out about Tua on SI tomorrow. I asked a lot of people around the league whether the Dolphins should pay him.
Ooh.
Some very, very blunt answers. Like,
Ooh.
I reached out to front office people. I reached out to GMs. And I also reached out to defensive coordinators who have coached against him. So tell me what you think about Tua Tagovailoa. I got to tell you, there was a mix, but there were some people who had a very strong opinion, including most of all the coordinators.
Interesting.
So check out that story. But I just feel like I've seen, like what are the Dolphins going to do this year they haven't already done?
Right.
The Jets are what they are. The Bills, I still think, are the best team in that division. But I also think the Bills at this juncture, like, again, I've kind of seen what the Bills are. The Bills are going to win 11 games, and they're going to get in the playoffs, and the defense is going to give up 59 points.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in the coaching staff. Then you look at, like, Baltimore. Baltimore's lost a ton of guys off that team.
Yeah.
We just talked about the Bengals. The Steelers and Browns have good rosters. They have no quarterback, so I don't care.
Right.
The Texans are the one team you look at and you go, they could be really, really good. Or is it like one of these deals where there's too many cooks in the kitchen,
right? And
it's like Stephon Diggs is throwing his helmet 9 times out of 10 games because he's not getting the ball. I like the Colts as a sleeper team. I don't think they're a Super Bowl caliber team. Tennessee's not good. Jacksonville at this point, again, they're kind of like Miami to me. It's like I've seen this song. Maybe they're better. I don't know. And then the Chiefs are the only team in the West that matters. The rest of these teams stink.
Right.
So you look at the AFC, and it is true. You kind of look at it, like, who's the team that you look at, they're just absolutely going to be there. 3rd week in January. The only team I feel that way about is Kansas City. Like, everybody else, it's like, it almost feels like who's going to get the right to get plowed by the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Like, maybe it doesn't shake that way, but sitting here on June, whatever the hell it is, 13th, like, that's how I feel about it.
It's shaping up pretty well for the 3P, truthfully. And the Chiefs' schedule isn't that hard, like, especially when you have to work in the NFC South into it. Like, I think it's a whole lot easier when you got to play the NFC South, and your division is the AFC West, where you're talking about the Chargers, who we've already mentioned. You got a lot of wholesale changes there. The Raiders, they have Rob Ryan as their defensive coordinator, and the Denver Broncos, who are the Denver Broncos. So it's like, I had to get a Rob Ryan joke in there, and it's always I saw him step to the podium. I think that was yesterday on Wednesday, and I was like, he's still around, like he's still coaching, like that's wild. That's crazy.
You're not the only one who felt that way. It's staggering.
The long white hair too is like kind of perfect for like the Steelers. He
never changes. He's the same person.
Yeah.
It's also good that like some things in the NFL just never change. Rob Ryan's hair, young coaches being really aggressive in decision making that doesn't require aggressive decision making.
Mm-hmm.
And Mickey Loomis just shoving $800 million down the road so they can get 8 cents under the cap. That's also a favorite of mine. You'll love the Saints when you look at like the over the cap .com. You go to that page, right, and they show like future years as a projected cap. And these teams are like you're always like way under future caps than most.
Yeah.
Right? They're like outpaid guys. And like I'll actually pull here. I'll give you a real example. So over the cap right now, if I go to their cap space section, which by the way, great website,
that's phenomenal. Yeah, one of my
2025. They got it projected out. My modest little raise at 260. I would be willing to bet it's more than that. But like teams have like $93 million and $88 million and $85 million. And even like a team like the Chiefs, who are toward the bottom of the barrel, I'm like 13 and change. They can roll over a bunch of money, whatever. Yeah. Like everybody's well under the cap. And then there's a few teams like the Bills and the Ravens and the Texans who are like $2 million over, $5 million over. And then there's the Saints. $88 million over. Jesus, man. Like, at some point, just let the contracts run off the book. But he knows if he does that. Mickey knows if he does that, they're an expansion team. So we're going to keep running this bad boy back until Mickey's ready to retire, and then some poor bastard's going to walk into that job and just eat it like nobody's business for years on end. Like, if you go to the 2026 cap, the 2026 cap, where you're literally talking, like the Chiefs have $89 million in space that year, okay? The Browns are 12 over the cap.
Yeah.
And the Saints somehow just have 22.7, but of course that'll all go away the second they restructure to get $90 million off the books next year. You gotta love it. Some things, man, just right as rain. They never change.
That's what we love about this league, truthfully. It's the continuity, it's the monotony, but there's beauty in the monotony when it comes to the NFL. It is. Matt, appreciate you joining me and talking some OTAs. I guess it's not OTAs. Mandatory mini camp. Yeah, mini camp.
Mandatory for most people.
Mandatory for us, as we are here. We are mandatorily here to talk about the mini camp. Appreciate our friends at Holiday Distillery, been Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon. Make sure to go check them out. Matt, any final thoughts?
No, I've shared every thought I have over the last 51 minutes. We're cooked.
That's great. Love to hear it. For Tucker Franklin, I did it again. For myself, Tucker Franklin, and Matt Verderame, I'm Tucker Franklin. I've screwed this whole outro up. It's okay.
Are you even sure at this point that you're Tucker Franklin? Because I got to tell you,
I'm Tucker Franklin. Am I with Tucker? Is Tucker Franklin in the room with us right now? We'll have to find out. Thank you for listening to That Football Show. We'll catch you guys next week.